Surviving fatal road accidents wasn't by chance, but by the grace of God. I'm Fred Mutua, and this is my story.
Childhood experiences, from the nurturing environment provided by caregivers to the quality of relationships established, play a pivotal role in shaping who we become. Though we eventually grow up, childhood experiences continue to influence us well into adulthood and much later in our lives. Fred Mutua, a family man and a music producer, takes us through some of his life experiences that impact who he is today.
I was born in a family of 6, though 4 steps, and I thank God for them. We grew up together as a family. Actually, my mom brought us up, all of us together as a family, and it humbled me to know how to live with siblings, and they played a role into who I am today, because I learned to humble so that they may be. I went into a local primary school, Mutua Primary School, when I was very young. Of course, a disciplined young man.
Discipline being a key to success, his well-behaved character was notable not only by the teacher, but by the pupils as well. Fred cleared primary school and was privileged to pursue high school education.
My dad inspired music in me when I was very young. After he got out of work, he could play music, the rumba Congolese music. And the only kamba music he used to play was the late Kakai Kilonzo's music. And he could admire me and my siblings as we dance to the music. I didn't know that this was inspiring music in me. So I grew up, I could hum all the instruments from those songs, but I could not sing the words. So this one dropped some music in me. So after class 8, I thought we have a long holiday after the KCP to joining Form 1. So I went and spoke to my choir leader from our church. I used to go to Mutua AC Church, and then I borrowed a guitar to learn before you go to high school. So that guitar only had 2 strings. So what I did, you remember the telephone calls, we had strings inside the telephone. So I took those ones, I took hanging lines, then I improvised my own strings. Then I had 6 strings in a box guitar, but I never knew how to tune. Then I just started playing, just plucking, playing. But then my uncle had employed someone who had a knowledge in playing the guitar. So when he was passing by, he had like, someone is playing guitar, but very well. Then he came to look for that person who's playing that guitar. Then he realized it was me. So, akaniuliza, what are you doing with this guitar? I told him I'm learning how to play. He took the guitar, tuned it, and then taught me the 3 chords guitar. Tindiri, 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 tindiri. Then he told me that's how the guitar is played, using the 3 fingers. Then he went to the market. On coming back, I had perfected what he had told me. Then he gave me the second rhythm. The first rhythm he told me is called a V rhythm, layman's language. The second rhythm was a flat rhythm. Then he went. By the end of that day, I'd learned the 2 rhythms. Then went to Form 1. I am a man who has a knowledge on playing the guitar. Unfortunately, in high school, my CU chair lady, she had a guitar. So over the weekends, I could pick the guitar, play during the Christian Union, I could play. Then got out of high school, the second best candidate for those times, then went to the Kenya Polytechnic.
With the new skill and discipline properly instilled, Fred believed that he had what it takes to face the world.
Clear college, Then after that, went back to the church. I used to go to Mlolongo Deliverance Church. Then I was playing. And at the same time, I had learned how to play the keyboard. So in the church, I was playing the keyboard. And then there was another young man was also playing the keyboard. And then my pastor then approached me and told me that the spiritual father is beginning a church in Umoja. And he's looking for a person who can help organize music in the church. And then he's looked around and he realized that I'm the person who can help him because I have music in me. Therefore, if I don't mind, you introduce me to him, then I'll listen to my heart whether to work with him or not. Shortly after that, akakuwa anapita kwa highway, Mlolongo highway. Then he called me. I went, met him. Then I decided, why not help him? I was commuted from Mlolongo to Moja. He began the church. Then I became the music organizer in the church, playing keyboard, leading worship, and helping train people on leading worship. Then it got a point when the pastor approached me and told me that where you're coming from is a bit far, it's a bit challenging and unfair because you have to come almost on a daily basis. So what you're going to do, look for a house, as a church will pay. Then I looked for a house. I got a single room, not a bed sitter, but a big single room. And then that's where I started life. And there's this brother of mine who anasema ni alinitoa ushamba. May God bless him. He stood with me for 6 months. He was actually paying the house rent as I was serving with that church. Then after the 6th month, he told me, alikuita because my money is getting also committed elsewhere, to talk to them so they can pay. There was another that you're serving with them also.
At this point, Fred got into financial constraints, forcing him to look for menial jobs just to eke out a living.
I found myself doing what they call mjengo, the building, in order to survive because I had to pay at the same time, eat. My dad at the same time also could help me where I'm stuck, but not as such. I had to. I found myself hawking, the profession of hawking. Ile nimebeba mfuko full of bikers, socks, thermos. And I come to tell you that today we are doing promotion. This is what I have in my bag. Then I sell to you.
Fred found himself between a rock and a hard place, not knowing what his next step would be.
I call it a dark season, which most of us get through after high school. Because I've got it from school and I don't know what to do. I don't have a job, I'm looking for a job. I'm not married, I'm looking for a wife. I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. Then the church expects me to shine, serve in the church, but they don't know what I'm going through as a young person.
Luckily, God came through for him and brought light in his darkness.
So I decided I'll go quiet on all people. Go tell the pastor to release me, go quiet on my girlfriend, go quiet on the building issues, go quiet on my parents, and then start afresh with me. Then immediately after that, I heard a voice ask me, what do you have? No, the voice first said, Fred, you are the first priority after me. I didn't understand what it meant. But then after I thought about it, I realized it's true that I should come first above everything. Nothing else should stress me up. Therefore, I should love me, I should spoil me, I should be good to me. So I'm the first priority. After every other thing, I come first. Now, after I understood that, the second voice asked me, what do you have in your hands? I didn't see anything.
Humanly speaking, Fred couldn't see beyond his situation, and he knew that the power to touch destinies was in his hand. His story continues after the break. FamilyNews.Today provides an escape room from the clutter through our podcasts, from church escapades
Get disappointed with God, and I think it's a misplaced anger.
to daily devotionals,
The beauty about God's love is that it was focused on all that God had.
to financial and life tips, bedtime stories for your child. All these and much more available just for you on FamilyNews.Today, on Spotify, Google Podcast, and SoundCloud. Insights at your fingertips. Life presents different phases where some situations blind us from seeing the gifts and talents bestowed upon us. Soon Fred's eyes were opened, and behold, destiny was at hand.
This pastor from the UK approaches people to go to the UK. The reasons, he was saying he wanted to begin churches in the major cities of the UK, and then he was looking for people who could help establish churches. And then he wanted 10 people. Then I was approached to join the group. Why? The person who had approached me saw me train music in the former church. That's why I'm saying that this church was a stepping stone to me. And then he requested me to go help them compose music and help them prepare for recording. This is something I'd never done. Yes, I was trained music, I was trained choirs, but now recording, this is another level. I used to be very committed in Christian KCSF. Is it KSCF or KC? Kenya Students for Christian Fellowship, KCF. And there's someone who used to meet there, we used to play together. I approached him to join the group. Then before I came to college, there's a group we used to sing with, we used to go for missions with. I was the leader of that group. Then there was one person who used to play bass guitar. I approached him into the group. So at least these three could play and sing. Now, among people could not sing. And then I never knew it was training for me because I had to teach them how to sing. And I started teaching them how to sing. After that, 2 months, we had several songs. And then we had known how to sing. And then they said, we need someone who can sing well into this group. And they said, there is a lady they had spotted in the Deliverance Church, Umoja, who could sing well. Let them approach her to see whether she can be of a help to the group.
And being a minister, a music minister, I was like, wow, that's a good idea. So we need you. One, because I'd already done my first album, and they were looking for someone who can sing and maybe help train the other people in the team and also compose songs. And I was already a composer. So I went, I joined the group, I found the rest of the team there, I found them, I introduced myself, and then I donated 1 or 2 of my songs that I'd written. And of course, I did a quick check in the team. There were a lot of people who didn't know how to sing, but there was the keyboardist, this tall keyboardist who knew how to play the keyboard and who was also a worshiper, and there was a certain touch on the keyboard that I said to myself, I think I should do my second album, and because it is worship songs, this is the right person. The touch on the keyboard for worship also is very, and then I said I'll talk to him about that later. So as we continued practicing, we came to a time now where we had to go to the studio to record. So I remember him telling us with a very serious face, thank you for the opportunity to train you all and everything, but I've done something I've never done. I've programmed music and I've never programmed, and I don't want to sell you short or something. So I'll need to look for someone who is trained and who is good in programming and sequencing the music or something. So I was like, wait a minute, I'd done my first album and this guy was good. He was far much better than the people who did my first album. So I was like, I know, you're good. You don't know this, but you need to know you're joking with life. For sure, you're good.
At that time, it hit me. What do you have in your hands? Now I knew that music is what God meant when he was asking me, what do you have in your hands? So he helped me discover what I had in my hands through this lady.
Fred fell head over heels for her, and they eventually tied the knot in a colorful wedding.
So in the year 2010, I had this simple wedding. I desired to have a simple wedding, not complicated, because I never had pre-wedding. It was me and my wife and the simple wedding. I had to do it in our church. At that time I joined the different church. Then wanted to cook for 300 people, because that's the budget I could afford. But when we talked to the cateress, she told us that your story with your wife, your people know. So if you want to do your wedding in this church, do a budget for 2,000 people. 2,000 people I could not afford. So back to the drawing board with my wife, and then discussed about these issues. Then we concluded, let us do it during the week on a Friday. Why? Because a lot of people will be working, and the only people who will come to the wedding are the people who care about us. But fortunately, we thank God, because people came. We had around 1,000 people in the wedding. But everyone ate. I don't know how, but everyone ate, and they were saying that your wedding was a beautiful wedding.
It is true that whoever finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. After settling down, Fred decided to go all out in order to live up to his dreams.
After I did the music, it did wonders. How? People could listen to what I have programmed, and I asked her, nani amekuchezea? Nani amekupangia mziki hivyo? Such good music, and then she could bring them to me. I became busy in programming. Program, go to a studio in town, record, then come back. Wait for another client. I never had anything. That time I used to borrow a keyboard, to hire a keyboard, do the programming, and go back. Wait when I get a client. But by God's grace, I managed to buy my own keyboard. And then I started saying that I have a mini studio. We could program, go to the studio, record, and come back to the mini studio. Then in the year 2008, I said no, because when we went to the studio to record, I never just used to sit. I used to observe what the sound technician was doing. And then I realized that this thing is simple because I have music in me, something I can do. And then I realized that the recording software, I should not be scared of it, because it's just a software like any other software. The 7th month, there's a pastor who had something I had done from Lodwar to Kana, from Lodwar actually, and he told me, Fred, I've come. I've heard what you've done, and I want you to do for me 2 albums. At that time I was not charging expensive. An album was only charging 25,000 shillings only, because I was doing everything. And he told me that I have money here, and I'll pay up for you. I'll pay up front, that it may begin. When he gave me the 50,000, I told him, mchungaji, kazi yako sifanyi hapa, naenda kufanyia kwingine. So we looked for a house together. I found a house in Umoja D. Then I talked to the landlord, he accepted, and then I began a studio there then. And I realized from the first client who had been messed up in a studio, that's the person, my wife currently, was not my wife then. She had been messed up in her first recording. And then the people coming to me are people who had been messed up in studios, and others have been trusting God to get someone who will help them through the recording process in the right way. So I realized it's more of ministry and mentorship than business.
Soon Fred set up a music recording studio, and things were never the same again.
The same day I finished building the studio, I never had anything in my pocket, so I had talked to my dad to help me at least get food. At the same time, I was not paying rent, because every coin I was getting used to go back. So at least I had around 6 months arrears, and then the landlord is hard on me. He doesn't know whether I have a studio in his house. Secondly, I don't have food. So I talked to my dad to help me with some pocket money so that I can get food. At least I had hope that now I have a studio, at least I'll be able to get coins to help me settle the house rent. I borrowed a bicycle, my neighbor's bicycle. Then the energetic young me on a bicycle to Mlolongo. Down home, there's a bridge. Just before the bridge, the brakes failed. I was going down. There was a truck behind me. And then that truck started hooting. Ile ni kama gari moshi. And then I panicked. It was after 5. So on the pavement, people were there. I could not slide to the pavement. So on arriving just at the center of the bridge, that's where the devil takes advantage. I managed to stop the bicycle and then went down to my left. On going down, I forgot that I have long legs. This truck passed on my leg. When I was down, my mind went, when I wake up, that leg itakuwa imefanana na chapati. Kwa sababu imepitiwa na truck ya kubeba mchanga. So I've lost my leg. I didn't know the state at which I found my leg. Then I woke up out of pain. I looked at my leg. My leg was still there. But the swelling, it equaled it swelled immediately. The swelling. The shoe I had was torn.
Fred survived the accident by the grace of God, and this became the onset of a more intensive warfare.
That's the same year I was to lose my dad. My dad was a very strong man who no history of sickness. Then drove to Mombasa. On coming back, when he arrived in Amali, actually I was called by the airman they were traveling with around 6 in the morning. Then he told me that your dad has fallen sick, seriously sick, come pick him to the hospital. I asked him what happened. He said, he started complaining of headache in Amali. Actually, they are a bit those things which fly during lanes, hit him at the head. Then he started having serious headaches. On arriving at Sultan, he was not able to drive anymore, so packed. Sent for some Panadols, took them, then akalemewa. Okay, after I was called, I also called my mom and my brother. They went down, and then my mom tells me that after they found him, when they were driving him to the hospital, on arriving at Salama, he just opened his eyes, locked his eyes with my mother's eyes, and he went just like that. Then one hand has gone. I'm here with my mom, and we used to be very close with my dad. So I chose, as a man, I need not to fight. I began a studio. My dad has gone. The accident, and fortunately with the accident, God preserved my bones. The scripture is very true. None of my bones broke.
A few years later, Fred was tested one more time.
We were going to Meru, and I remember how on the road he told me I'm getting sleepy because he hadn't slept much the previous night because he had gone to help the friend who had an accident. So in the car, the boys who were carrying were already drivers. All of us were licensed. So I was like, why are you giving me the car? You can give them. He said, no, I want you to just drive. So I said, okay. So I remember this time when just after the car, the lady was driving that car, it had an L, she was a learner. And I remember how she got into the road and I said, what? I don't want to be near that lady. Vile ameingia hiyo barabara, ata cause issues. So everyone in the car was like, yeah, by the way, ameingia vibaya. So when we went and then she was like, pass, I was like, Felix, then there's that truck that was playing with us, then it went, and then there's the motorcycle guy who just got his motorcycle on the road and switched it off. And I was like, I'm actually coming to hit this guy. And then I swerved to the right because I was in shock. I switched off the car. To the right, on the road still, but to the right. I avoided him and I switched off. So my husband said, see that lorry, it's gonna kill all of us. So I was like, yeah, by the way, I'm in the middle of the road. So I switched on the car and swerved it to the right, off the road, but to the right. And as he alighted and this lorry just passed by, they were going towards the piki guy. This lorry that was about to hit us just passed, and as he went behind the lorry towards the motorcycle, I remember seeing him jump onto the bonnet of this car, and I was like, oh God.
And then that person was a learner. She panicked. Instead of applying the brakes, she accelerated. I was carried on that bonnet for 50 meters. But good thing, I was alert. After I was hit, there was the D sound in my mind and a cloud of darkness. And then I said, this is death coming, but I can't die now. I started speaking against the spirit of death. Kukemea kifo. On bending down, a cloud of blood from my face. I realized that I was hit seriously. After I saw the cloud of blood, I said, devil, you've not killed me in that accident. I did not kill me through a bleeding. And you not use my blood in any form of sacrifice, because I'm born again. And my blood, So, I'm not going to overbleed, and I'll be fine. I'll live in the name of Jesus Christ. Then held my face with my hand tight to control over bleeding. In fact, by the time we were getting to the hospital, my hand, I could not move it down because of that pressure.
Luckily, no one else in their car was hurt. Fred recovered pretty fast, but even before the dust could settle.
In 2022, a client of mine, a dear family friend, lost the brother. And then I was supposed to drive the children to Western and then do video shoot for the burial. So on Friday, taking the body from the mortuary, did the shoot, and then on Saturday was the burial. You know, Western, you have to do it from morning to evening. Then I was very tired. Then I had a client on the following day, on Sunday. Then I told them I have to go back to Nairobi. 15 minutes later, in my sleep, I had a bang. And it's like all the systems of my body shut. Then my mind goes, this is an accident, but I don't know where I am. My mind went naweza jipata chini ya truck. I shouted, Jesus. The first one could not come out. I showed the second one, Jesus. Then all my body parts again unshut. I looked and I realized we have had a head-on with a matatu. And that bang was the head-on plus the airbags. After I woke up and saw the matatu, I said again, this is death. No one is going to die. In this car, in my car, and that matatu, no one is going to die.
True to his confession, there were no fatalities and survivors escaped unhurt. Now a husband and father of two, Fred draws a handful of lessons from his life experiences.
What I've learned about God, one, He's jealous of the people He has called. He watches over them. He protects them and carries them through the journey to the last minute. And this far, God has been faithful. He has carried me through. I've never lacked. He has been faithful to me and my family also. I thank God for everything.
Isaiah 59:1 tells us that the Lord's hand is not shortened that he cannot save, nor his ear heavy that he cannot hear, to anyone going through a rough patch in their life.
If you are called and you know that you've not called yourself, because there are people who call themselves and perfect the art of calling themselves. Na najua mimi sikuitwa, mimi nimejiita. Huyo atagive up haraka because they'll not have anyone to fight for them, because they have themselves to serve themselves. These challenges come because you carry destinies of people. And because of the same destinies you're carrying, God will fight for the same destinies and he'll fight for you.
Every day, you're walking towards your exit. Only you don't know when that exit will be. In between your entrance and exit, a lot of things happen. But once you know that God has a plan for you, especially if you're born again, and you're living your purpose, you know your purpose and you're living your purpose, then you know there are things God will just do over your life so that your purpose in Him is fulfilled.
If you have a story you would like to share with us, kindly text us on 20316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316 and we will get back to you.